Hi everyone, welcome to week 3. I have a lot of information to give you this week, and I will be giving as much as I can in this video, but then I've also included a PowerPoint linked below for you to read through. Please read through that very carefully and thoroughly. You'll see PowerPoint slides, but then underneath each slide is information that I have written to help you to better explain the information on the PowerPoint slides. So please look at the slides, but then also read the notes below because that will help you throughout this week as you complete your work. The first thing is kind of an overview for this week. We are moving into the research component of this class, and so that means that your topics are due on Tuesday by midnight. So I need you to email those to me so that I can give you feedback, help you, help guide you. If it's not the right topic, I'll let you know. If it is, but it needs some adjustment, I'll let you know that too. But I want to approve your topics before you start diving into the research. So that's the first thing. The other is, as you consider topics that you're interested in, remember that for this assignment, it's 5 to 7 pages, so we're looking at scope. We're also looking at whether it's something that can be researched academically. So we're going to be reading in the required readings and multimedia more about what an academic source is, how do I access academic sources through the library, and that kind of thing. So keep that in mind too, that it needs to be something that you can find sources on from the library resources. Keep in mind too that it needs to be a topic that you can speak about with some distance. Like if it's a topic that's really near and dear to your heart that you are very passionate about and you're not able at this point in time to remove yourself enough from that to be objective, that's something we need to be aware of. So if it's a topic that you're not able to discuss without bias and without feeling too emotionally invested, then you'll need to choose a different topic. There are some that I am at that point and I just can't approach right now without feeling passionate, without having this response of I just do not understand what the other side of this argument is saying and why. That's okay. We can work toward getting to that point, but for this assignment, we need to have some room for objectivity and distance. Now, that said, it is always an important practice to try our best to be objective. So if there's a topic that you don't feel you're objective on, that you think that you can or you would like to move toward objectivity, this could be a good assignment to practice that. So you know yourself, you know your limits, weigh that carefully. The other thing is, like I mentioned, the library offers us some excellent resources for understanding how to access information through their site. So that is listed under the required multimedia, or the on our course page. There's the sidebar. I guess it's on this side if I'm looking at the video. It's on the the left side. Anyway, required readings and multimedia. Click on that, and you will see multiple links to the library's page and information. Read through each of those carefully. It's part of our required readings for this week for a reason. So watch their videos, read through those links, and then if you have questions, as always, ask me, but you can also contact the librarians and they can help you as well. So that's about topics and research. The other thing is, you'll notice we'll be gathering sources. So our first ALA this week is called an annotated bibliography. It is working kind of hand in hand with your documented argument this week. So as we decide a topic, as we begin to research, we want to organize our sources in some way. And so we're going to gather information, decide which sources best fit with our research. And in order to do that, we need to use some of the skills that we've practiced with our rhetorical analysis essay. So those context questions I talked about before, breaking down an argument into parts to better understand it, to analyze it, and then evaluate it. That's the same kind of thing that we're going to be doing for our annotated bibliography. So we'll read a source and say, here's where that source lands on this topic. Here's where their argument is strong, here's where their argument is weak, and here's ultimately how I envision using it in my research paper. That's what we're doing for the annotated bibliography. So in order to do that well, we need to start by taking very detailed and accurate notes. So this goes hand in hand with avoiding plagiarism. Often plagiarism is unintentional, but that's not an excuse. It still qualifies as plagiarism whether or not one intended to do it. So often this takes place because we're sloppy in our note-taking and in our citation. And so in order not to do that, in order not to be sloppy, we need to be very careful about the notes that we take, as well as how we cite the sources in our own writing. So for some tips on that, my PowerPoint linked below offers an overview of that information that you need to know, as well as just a reminder that for every outside piece of information, we have to cite the author's last name and the publication date for APA. For everything that's quoted, we need to cite as well the paragraph number or the page number. Okay, so let's see, going down through my notes here. The other thing is for this assignment, for both the documented argument and the annotated bibliography, I want to just make us aware that we are moving from, hopefully, more of a black and white understanding to a gray understanding of issues. So while many issues are very polarized and there are two very strong perspectives, there are many perspectives in between. And so we, as we gather sources, want to consider not just the extremes, but some of those middle perspectives as well, to see the complexity of people's perspectives. Okay. The documented argument is our second ALA this week. So we have 2 applied learning activities. The first is the annotated bibliography. We have 5 sources due for that. The second is the documented argument, and they will address the same topic. So the annotated bibliography is just a way to organize and keep track of your sources that you will eventually use for the documented argument, as well as the public argument. For the documented argument, I want to iterate very clearly that your opinion does not enter into this yet. So the documented argument, you're gathering sources on this topic and withholding your own opinion. Your own opinion will come in week 6 in the public argument, but not before then. So what do we do then if we're writing an essay on a particular controversial topic? Our documented argument will cover will essentially be introducing somebody to the lay of the land on a particular topic. So you're just organizing the sources as you see them. If I'm talking about, I would prefer you not use this topic, but just is the first one that came to mind, gun control. If I am saying, if I'm looking at this topic and what legislation should be made, there are going to be some who are for more legislation, there are going to be some who are against more legislation, and then there will be some in the middle who are for some legislation but not a lot, and vice versa. So what I will be doing in my documented argument is saying, here's kind of where my sources land. There are a lot that are for, like totally for, there are a lot that are totally against, but there aren't very many in the middle, and I'm interested in exploring more of those voices that are in the middle. So I'm not telling you what my perspective is at all. I'm just giving you kind of a lay of the land, who is participating in the conversation, what they're saying, and why they're saying that. So if you have more questions about that, I anticipate you will. Please contact me and we can talk more. Okay. I already talked about plagiarism. The next thing I want to address is APA format. We've practiced it, and many of you have done really well in the first ALA and the second. I included in the PowerPoint below a bit of an overview of APA format, some reminders. I think these were in the last PowerPoint that I uploaded as well as 2 other PowerPoints to practice both in-text citation as well as the reference citation. So For many of you, I said, please review the textbook chapters, please review Purdue OWL for details. Please treat this very seriously. This is part of avoiding plagiarism, and these details do matter, they're important. So in text, we need to tell readers where this information is coming from, which source, when it was published, as well as, if it's a quote, the page or paragraph number. So we're providing a citation to show readers, this is exactly where I got this source. In the references at the very end of your essays, we're telling readers, hey, here's some information so that you can access that exact same source in the very same way that I accessed it. So those details and particulars of the reference citations are also really important. Okay, one more note on APA format, and that is for the assignments in this class, since we're not doing really lengthy essays, you do not need to include an abstract, so you can simply omit that page altogether. Okay, let me make sure I'm moving through all of my points here. Okay, my last point here is to read prompts very carefully. So on the prompt page, go back to it multiple times to make sure that you are answering all the questions, completing all the things that you need to complete in order to earn a good grade on the assignment. Part of that is referencing the rubrics. So on the assignment page, there are multiple tabs. One of them is the assignment, one of them is your grade, and one of them is the rubric. And so reading through the rubric beforehand helps you get an idea of what I'm looking for and what you can do for the best possible outcome. So please do access those rubrics as well. Finally, proofread everything that you submit. I know I've said this before, and I will say it again. Use Word to help you. Use Turnitin to help you for the similarities filter. But this applies to everything that you submit. Emails to me, discussion posts, the initial post, as well as your peer responses, as well as your ALAs. For everything, please proofread. Again, it will only help you. Okay, so this week we have several assignments. We have the readings from the Bedford Researcher, and those review how to read well, how to evaluate sources, how to manage information, and take notes. So read those chapters carefully, complete the practice and the learning quizzes. The discussion this week, you'll notice, draws from the readings from last week. So we'll be talking more about logical fallacies, mistakes in argumentation. So you'll participate in that. Again, remember you have your initial post as well as your 2 peer responses. And then again, we have 2 ALAs this week, the annotated bibliography and the documented argument. All right, I think that covers all. Oh, one last note. So one last note, and then I promise I'm done. I know this is a long video. One final note, I am beginning my grading on your ALAs from week 2, and I wanted to just clarify something. The rough draft rubric, you'll notice, is very simple. Did you submit it? Was it on time? Did it have most of the components that I'm looking for? So if you have a really strong grade on the draft, it does not necessarily mean that you'll get a strong grade on the rough draft. Sorry, if you have a good grade on the rough draft, it does not necessarily mean that you will have as strong or higher grade on your final draft. The rubrics differ, and what I'm looking for in your final draft is the degree of change that you have from your rough draft to your final. So if I made a lot of comments on the rough draft and they weren't addressed on the final draft, or they weren't addressed quite to the degree that they needed to be for an A paper, then your grade will reflect that. And if you have any questions about this at all, again, please contact me. I would be happy to talk more with you. We can set up a Skype interview, we can talk that way, or we can email. But I anticipate there might be some confusion about that. So for all the assignments in this class, please know that if you get a good grade on the rough draft, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that grade or higher on the final draft. So, all right, that is it. Long video. Thanks for sticking with me. I tried to lure my dogs here to let them say hello, and they retreated to the other room where there's sunshine. So maybe I'll get them in a video later this week. So I'll try. Anyway, best wishes this week, and we will talk again soon. Bye-bye.